Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast from still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. Joining me from Omaha Productions and Rocky Top Insider, it's Jumpin' Jack Foster. Jack, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, Chase. Glad to be back on here. I think it's been a couple weeks, so excited to talk some ball today and have some fun.
You're like always, you hesitate and like, do I just like close the window here whenever I do the Jumpin' Jack Foster? You're like, I don't know. Like you're just like, I'm out.
Honestly, it's pretty on brand. I'm not going to say like I go around jumping, of course. That would be very weird. But jumping has a energetic, aggressive kind of connotation to it. And that is kind of my personality, so it works.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's fun.
There you go. I hope Tony Vitello doesn't jump for the San Francisco Giants job, Jack Foster.
Yeah, that was look, I don't have a lot of information about whether he would leave or not, obviously, but it would be very terrible if he did. Ultimately, though, I don't think it's going to happen. Like, my hunch would just be that surely Tony won't leave. I mean, they're building a new stadium for you. You're the best program in the last 5 years. You could argue LSU, I guess, but top two at least. And, look to be the best program moving forward, given how well you recruit in the sports. The money's there. Like, why would you go to the MLB? You're building a juggernaut, a potential college baseball dynasty. I don't think he's leaving.
I just don't pretend to have any. I don't know what Tony values, I don't know if he feels like this is his one shot to jump to Major League Baseball just because of the unique situation with Buster Posey being a Florida State star at San Francisco. Like, does he see this as a unique opportunity? How much does he actually care about being a Major League Baseball manager? Like, is that something he actually does care about? Does he look at it in terms of, I was talking to Bob Baskerville of Fan Run and Rocky Top Insider yesterday about this, where the thing that I think is interesting to me about Tony is just that, like, if you would tell me this was the St. Louis Cardinals job that opened up, I would be like, oh yeah, this feels very real, just with his hometown roots and everything else. Like that seems very, very plausible. San Francisco is a little bit different for me, but it's also what I think is I don't know if you're the same, but I've just kind of assumed he's out after 5 years anyway. Like, I think in 2030, when Randy, Danny, and Dondi, all their contracts are up and they all might leave together, then I could see Tony just being like, he might have 3 titles by that point, 2 titles, whatever. The stadium's done, all that kind of thing. And he just kind of like, he'll be in his, I think, early 50s by that point, right? I think by 2030, because he's what,
45 or 46 right now?
Yeah. So I think he'll be right at 50. And I mean, that point made a whole heck of a lot of money. Just a superstar in Knoxville. And that's just like, you just ride out. Like, I could see that. Like, I've always just kind of looked at it as like, I thought that he would have 5-ish more years, would be my guess, before he's like, because I mean, the recruiting grind has got to be a lot. Like, Tony recruits better than anybody in the country. And I mean, he's out here recruiting this week. I mean, he's putting together top 3 after top 3 class. Like, Tony loves recruiting, but I imagine it just gets harder and harder as the years go on. But I don't know. I wonder if Tony looks at it, and this is what I would tell him, is like, dude, Tennessee's not going anywhere. Like, you've built a juggernaut where I think the fact that you're getting interest now, I think you're going to continue to get interest over the next couple of years. And who's to say the Cardinals job doesn't open up in a couple of years or something like that, and you revisit it then? You know what I mean? Like, I would just wait if I were him, because there's no chance he goes down in value. Like, Tony Vitello is going to be a hot commodity for every big time job, both at the college level and the professional level, for the next 5 years, because he's built a sustainable juggernaut at Tennessee. So if I were him, I would just wait it out. If I don't feel like San Francisco is if I want to go to Major League Baseball, but I don't think San Francisco is the right fit, man, I just wait it out a little bit longer. But if I don't want to go to Major League Baseball at all, that is not a big deal to me. Then, obviously you stay at Tennessee. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't know what Tony values or what he wants to do.
Yeah, it honestly comes down to that. And we don't, know what that answer is. So we can't really speak all that much on what we think is very likely here. But also, yeah, he's going to have opportunities. Tennessee isn't going anywhere. They're going to be among the best in the country year in, year out. And I think, Tony Vitello is a superstar, but I think he'd be better I think he's going to be better college baseball coach than he would be an MLB manager. Like when you think about what Tony's strengths are, you don't really point to managing games as his top strength. Like sometimes he makes questionable decisions. Sometimes his players and his teams, the things they struggle with are just fundamentals such as defense and base running. Like there's things that, maybe Tony would not be all that great at the next level where, in college they don't matter as much because of how good of a player's coach he is, how much of a culture builder he is, how great of a recruiter he is. Those things matter so much more in the college game, obviously. So when it comes to just how good you are too, I feel like Tony's got to know he's better suited for the college game.
But again, I don't know. Like, it's just, we don't really have a lot of, because everyone's throwing out the Pat Murphy comparison over there at Milwaukee. But I mean, he was an assistant. Like he did not just jump, and he's also a lot older than Tony, I think. But that's about it. But like, you don't see the kind of jump that Pat made for Milwaukee. Like you just don't have a guy who was in his prime coaching college baseball get a big time Major League Baseball manager job. And it's just a big lifestyle adjustment, obviously. 162 games versus what he's on now. The recruiting goes away, obviously, maybe that's something he looks at. But like you said, like that's the things that makes him such an elite college coach. I'm not sure translates to professional. We also just have no idea how Tony would be with 30-year-olds, right? Like he's managing 18 to 22-year-olds. I don't know how his temperament and everything else plays for a bunch of grown men.
And he acts way younger than his age. He's like one of the boys,
Yeah.
Like,
and you can't be that.
Are 30-year-olds going to take him seriously with how he acts sometimes? It's like.
Well, he clearly has good friends, right? Like he ends up Bryce Harper. He clearly has some MLB fans. Yeah.
But, will it be the right kind of relationship it needs to be between manager and player in the big leagues? I don't know. It works so well for college. I mean, I legitimately think that Tony has, we already know Tony has a lifetime contract at Tennessee. I legitimately think Tony, if he loves the game that much and, is willing to coach for many, many years, that he will go down as one of the greatest college baseball coaches of all time. Like, I just think Tennessee is so sustainable. I don't care if the leadership changes, what else changes with the university. Tony is the centerpiece here of Tennessee baseball being the juggernaut it's going to be for years and years and years as long as he's there.
On the flip side, though, it seems like if he were to take a job, Josh Elander, you would install Josh. Like it seems like that would be very bizarre if they did not just install Josh Elander. If Tony were to take take the Giants job. And part of me is like, this is still a talent-based sport. Like Elander he's obviously been a great recruiter for Tennessee, very different kind of personality, obviously than Vitello, it seems like, but I don't think recruiting's really going anywhere. I think Elander will still be putting together one of the best staffs in college baseball. So I don't know. Do you think the program would still be in good hands and you would bet on Elander to keep this thing humming if this were to go this way?
Yeah, obviously it's not going to be the same, but I would anticipate Tennessee baseball under Josh Elander still being a very good SEC team, able to compete on a year in, year out basis, able to recruit at a high level, maybe not the nation's best level every single year, book it with your eyes closed. But look, Tennessee's going to have a solid floor with Elander. The bottom is not going to fall out at all. Elander's a stud too. Obviously Tony kind of takes this thing over the top. I'm not going to say Tennessee would never have a national championship ceiling under Elander, but Elander would be the no-brainer replacement, and I think Tennessee would be a good program still, even if Vitello left, just maybe not an elite program, especially in the short term.
But again, Elander might just be just as elite.
Yes.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that is a possibility, of course.
And that's what I would say for folks freaking out. Like, I still think they would be in really good shape either way. But isn't it crazy? Like, we're in early October, and the biggest thing on Tennessee Vol fans' minds is Tony Vitello in the baseball program.
It shows how important it is to fans. And
like, it'd be devastating if Tony left. Like, I think it'd be a mourning. Like, they wouldn't. I think there's a lot of Tennessee fans who would not want to watch like this game against Arkansas. They would just be like, I can't do it. Like, I just like they're in mourning. Like, I think it would be a really, really devastating scene in Knoxville for a while.
That was another thing I wanted to add. If Vitello left, the emotional hit for fans would be greater than anything that would happen on the field or production wise for the team. Like the emotion would be the more negative side of this than Tennessee, going down in production or not being as good.
It would just be, and also be so weird, man. Like the new stadium and everything being finished, and it would be bizarre, like super, super bizarre. But hey, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We'll see. Final baseball thing. Who are you most curious about here in fall ball? Like seeing some of the numbers, who's doing well in scrimmage. Obviously, a big one this weekend. Inter squad scrimmage in Chattanooga. Who are you curious of hearing about this weekend and over the next couple weeks?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the newcomers and transfers are guys you're interested to hear about all of them. But I want to see what kind of step Manny Marin is going to take this year. That's my player I'm circling that I think could be an absolute dog for Tennessee, a potential centerpiece. I know Levi Clark is probably going to be the masher. You have other guys, Ford. These transfers are going to be great. The hit rate on them I anticipate being very high. But, when you look at the returners in this freshman class that was so highly touted, that was so, Tennessee was able to keep some of these guys from going to the big leagues, which was a major coup. I'm looking at Manny potentially being an all SEC caliber player here. If the power numbers can increase, the pop was already there for a smaller guy. It was pretty impressive, the kind of pop he had with his stature in his first season. And I think he can shore up some of those mental mistakes in the field and become a pretty elite defender. He could be Tennessee's best all-around player next year. And I don't think it would be that big of a shock. I don't think he's going to be Tennessee's best hitter, but, all-around player is a possibility here. And just, Tyler Myatt, I want to see how good he's going to be at the plate because we know he's probably not going to start anywhere defensively, but can he be the set it and forget it DH, be that good at the plate? That's something I'm keeping an eye out for as well.
Yeah, I'm curious how because I think he seemed like he's a good team guy. He was on the radio show this summer, and I got the sense that he's happy to play wherever they need him. But I think he would like to be in the field. It seemed like obviously I think everybody would like to be in the field, but he mashed at the Cape, man. So I am very curious to see how he translates from Walter State to SEC competition. Like, does he hit a wall like a Levi Clark did or a Griffin Merritt did at times, or does he just mash throughout? Like, I don't know. I'm very curious to see what he does. And then Marin, like I said, I've made the joke this summer. I'm like, keep throwing Uncrustables at this man. Like, just keep throwing Uncrustables at him. Because like the Oppo home run he had at the end of last year, where like, it's there. Like, if he just like puts on a little bit more weight and just keeps working on his power, like Manny Marin could be really, really good and have sneaky amount of power for the Vols this season. So I like that call. Jack Foster, are you more or less concerned about Arkansas now with Petrino getting 2 weeks to prepare, having an interim, no Sam Pittman, and then rebooting the defensive staff so that Tennessee's offense really doesn't know what they're in for against the Razorbacks in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think I would be less concerned. I wasn't concerned to begin with, but I feel like Arkansas is going to be a disaster this year. By the way, what do you think are the odds Petrino gets hired as the head coach?
The names aren't like that have been leaked early. I like that.
Summerall would be the one that you'd point to, right?
Yeah, like I love Dan Mullen. Like, I'm a big Dan Mullen guy, but I don't. If you're gonna, Matt made a good point about this on the show last night. It's like, if you're gonna hire Dan Mullen, just keep Petrino. Like, they're kind of the same in a lot of ways. Where just great offensive guys, but probably not A+ coaches. But you kind of know what you're getting. Yeah, like not the best recruit. Like, it's just you kind of know what you're getting. Just two offensive whizzes. It's like there's no reason to just go get Mullen if you're thinking about Petrino. But like John Gruden being thrown out there is really bizarre to me. And I just when I hear that name, I'm like, are we watching what's happening with Bill Belichick at North Carolina right now? The greatest NFL coach of all time, who was only gone for 1 year and is getting crushed with an easier schedule and an easier path to victory and 6 wins. Like they might not miss a bowl game, and then you're like, let's throw John Gruden, who's never obviously coached here, and then we're gonna throw him in the SEC, the toughest league, and then just be like, good luck. Like, what? No, that I don't understand why. Like that's like, oh, I would love to see Gruden at Arkansas. Would you? Like, I don't think that would go well at all. Like, if I'm Gruden, I'm waiting for like NC State or something. I don't know, but I think Petrino. The problem is it just depends on some things that like. I just don't like the schedule in front of him. Like that's my main issue is like the schedule is a little bit better than I could see Petrino being capable. Like he needed Memphis and Notre Dame at home a couple weeks before. You know what I mean? Because now he's going to Tennessee, probably losing that game. A&M at home, I think that's a big one. Mississippi State, he should win that at home. Auburn at home, he should win that one. LSU's kind of a like here's what I'll say. If he beats LSU on the road, where if Garrett Nussmeier gets shut down or something and LSU season's off the tracks and their offense does not get fixed, I could see something like that. Like I think he needs to beat LSU. I'll say that. If he beats LSU, he could happen.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I mean, LSU shutting Nussmeier down would be kind of crazy, I think.
I mean, he's bad, and there's something off. Like LSU's offense is broken, man.
Yeah, but I still would be surprised. And then you mentioned them beating. I don't know if Arkansas is beating State. Like Mississippi State's good. I know it's a home game, but they may not win any of these games.
I think he'll beat Auburn at home. I think he probably beats Mississippi State.
Will they be favored in that game?
Yeah, I think they'll be favored. Auburn's offense sucks, man. Another offense.
But their defense is good.
It's okay. The Taylor Green matchup versus Jackson Arnold. It's not fair.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think Arkansas is going to be all that good. They just got freaking trounced by Notre Dame. Bullied. Yeah. Horrible. Hey, you really think Petrino's they're going to go and be totally invigorated? Like, I don't know.
I just think they're dangerous. I think Taylor Green's really good. I think he's a top 4 quarterback in the SEC.
With that. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know, man. They scored 13 points against Notre Dame.
But that was the first one where that was their first stink bomb offensively because they scored 35 on Ole Miss. They scored 31 on Memphis, 56 against Arkansas State, and 52 against A&M. Like, it's not like the offense has been the problem. It was the defense, and he cleaned house. That's why it's interesting. I don't know what to make of Arkansas coming here in 2 weeks.
I mean, I feel like Tennessee wins comfortably. Like a Mississippi State from last year.
Interesting. I think it's going to be kind of choppy. I don't think it's going to be great.
Tennessee's good at home, man. Dude, Tennessee plays so good at home.
I don't think they're going to lose at home, but I do think this is going to be a sneaky close game in the fourth quarter where Tennessee fans are going to be very frustrated that Taylor Green has converted like 8 of 12 third downs and Tennessee is up like 31-24 late in the fourth where you're like, okay, this is just frustrating, but never feeling like you're going to lose, but also never pulling away.
Yeah. I mean, look, that happens with Tennessee a lot. I feel like they're a little different the last couple of years. If it was Nico or Joe, maybe, but Tennessee feels a little more apt to dominate games this season. So I feel like they'll roll, but potentially, of course. You called Arkansas last year, so
I called Mississippi State too. I was like, Mississippi State's making this a game.
I thought that going in. I didn't think that going into the season, but after seeing State, of course, beat ASU and look pretty competitive, I'm like, look, Tennessee's hype struggles on the road under Heupel. I'll take State to cover, and that's what happened.
Hey, you escaped with the dub, which is all that matters. If the Vols lose to Alabama, but they beat Oklahoma and Arkansas going into their bye week before New Mexico State, do you think they're a playoff team?
Yep.
Interesting.
Yes. Well, I mean, look, you got to beat Florida, right? Probably.
I think Vanderbilt. I mean, where are they at?
I agree Vandy's better than Florida, but I still think it's more likely Tennessee loses to Florida. Just because Vandy's
I tend to agree.
Yeah. I think everyone would agree with that. So as long as you handle business in Gainesville, which is asking a lot if you look at history, yes, definitely playoff team. Tennessee's in the playoff if they're 10-2. No ifs, ands, or buts about that, I think. And look, chaos is going to happen. They may get in at 9-3. You'd prefer the third loss. I don't know. Would you prefer Tennessee's third loss be to Oklahoma, a top 15 team in Neyland, or to Florida on the road. I think you'd still prefer it be to Oklahoma based on how the playoff committee will perceive you. Yeah.
I think that matters more, especially because if you narrative matters. So if you lose that game close to Oklahoma, whatever, but then you win at Florida and it's like, oh, we broke through. We can't, and then you beat Vanderbilt, who I mean might be a top 20 team still at that point. That's a lot of narrative juice where they bounce back and they're, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like
the timing of the loss is better.
Right. Like if you lose to Florida there, they're like, oh, same old Tennessee. Like it's just another year, different roster, just doesn't matter. They just can't go to Gainesville and win. And I just think it'd be an embarrassing loss in Gainesville this year in particular. Like, this would be one of the most embarrassing losses at Florida in a long time. Because I think Florida could, I mean, that record could be really, really bad. They could be like 3-7 going to Gainesville.
Yeah. I think there was like some model that said Florida had a better chance of winning one game the rest of the season than they did going 500. Something crazy like that. Yes.
I mean, their schedule's brutal, man.
They have a better chance at 2-10 than 500, I think was the stat, which is insane.
But that's what I'm saying. Like and they would love to play spoiler for Tennessee to keep them out of the playoff. I also just don't think Tennessee's losing to Oklahoma. Like dark mode, it's going to be spooky. It's going to be a night game. Heupel's getting up for that game.
Yeah, even if Mateer's back, I got Tennessee.
I tend to agree. I think my thing is like, I think there's a very real chance they split Florida Vanderbilt. And I just don't know which way it goes.
I just don't see them losing to Vandy, man, at home.
Dude, they could dug themselves a hole against Vandy last year on the road, and
that was on the road. It's so much different.
I mean, it was sleepy. I mean, that's basically a home game.
On the road doesn't matter. You're right, but dude, Neyland is just different. Like even though Vandy's Neyland West, I guess it's still a completely different ball game in Knoxville.
I'm just gonna be worried about quarterbacks, mobile quarterbacks, and teams that have really good rushing attacks against what I've seen from Tennessee to this point. Like it's just going to make me a little bit anxious to see what teams can do there.
Yeah.
We'll see. Final one, Jack Foster. Does making the SEC title game move the needle for you for Tennessee this year? Do you agree that McElroy, your boss, Greg McElroy over there at Always College Football, that UT is not likely to make the SEC title game this year? Or do you think it's still very rich possibility?
Well, let's get one thing straight. Greg isn't my boss. He's more of he's just a talent I help produce for. He's definitely not my superior. But yeah, look, if Tennessee, the SEC is so wide open, I feel like right now. I mean, are we sure Texas is that good? We'll see what ends up. I mean, Bama got dragged by Florida State in week 1, and then they go into Athens and win. Georgia beat Tennessee, who looks good. Ole Miss could be the best team in the league with Chambliss. Who knows? So the SEC being so wide open, if it remains that way, and Tennessee is going to go to the SEC championship game, and I think they could have a real chance at winning it, then yes, it does move the needle. And I think that'll probably be the case. I think if Tennessee does make the SEC championship, they will have a chance at winning it. Whereas in years past, it's just like, okay, you're losing to Georgia, so it doesn't really matter all that much. Then of course that wouldn't move the needle. If you strip all that away and the prestige of winning a conference, and if you just don't care about that kind of thing, which I still do a little bit, when it comes to what Tennessee wants to achieve in terms of making a playoff run or winning the national championship, then no, it really doesn't move the needle all that much for me. Because it's just too early to tell. Like if Tennessee has a chance of becoming a top 4 team, yes. I mean, it's a no-brainer in that way, but I'm rambling here and going a million different directions. I'll say yes, it does move the needle for me because I think if Tennessee were to make it, they'd have a 45+% chance of winning given how wide open I think the league is.
Isn't it funny though, like where we're at with SEC title game, like that used to be such a big deal. Like, oh, I want to get back to Atlanta. Like, how many Vol fans were like, it's been a long time. Have you heard any Vol fan talk about getting back to Atlanta? Huh?
That's what Hendon said to Josh, right? After 2021, he's like, we're going to go to Atlanta next year.
But no one talks about it anymore. Like, have you heard any player even talk about it? Like, no one cares. Like, the SEC title game has lost all of its luster very quickly. That nobody, and even fans are not like, oh, I really want to get back to, I want to play for the SEC championship again. Like, I just haven't heard that from anybody. It's all about the playoff. Like, they're just like, I want to get in the playoff. I don't really care about whether or not we make the SEC title game in Atlanta. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, I mean, it's just since divisions have gone away, I think it's lost a lot of that luster. Does it move the needle for you at all?
No, don't care.
None.
I think it's worse for everybody involved, especially because if you lose, you just have this added wear and tear on your team a couple weeks before the playoff, because you're going to make the playoff anyway if you make the SEC title game. So I just feel like it's kind of that's why I'm excited. Like, the one thing I'm excited about further CFP expansion is turning that game into a playing game. Like, that's what I would prefer. Like, the 3 and 4, 5, 6, whatever teams, those two, like, doing that for Saturday and Sunday, Friday, whatever the scheduling is, that makes a lot more sense to me. And then instead of just getting a bye, skipping that game and just going straight to the CFP, it just, in the new era, it doesn't matter anymore.
I understand. Yeah. And look, I just think it'd be cool if Tennessee won an SEC championship in football. Like, that would be pretty dope. But what I was trying to say somewhere in my messy point was that, yeah, when it comes to winning a national championship, making a playoff run, it doesn't move the needle. You know, all that stuff you'd want to achieve, that's very important. Title games don't mean anything anymore when it comes to the common.
Yeah.
But as far as just, winning the league, it still holds some significance.
Jack Foster, what can good folks check out from you over at Omaha Productions and Rocky Top Insider this week?
Yeah, so a lot going on with Omaha, of course. It's football season. We're in the thick of it. We got twice a week SV Pod. That's the main show I produce for. College football recaps late Saturday nights. Those go out Sunday, so be sure and check those out. Lots of fun. NFL recaps on Tuesdays. I even made an appearance on one SV Pod a couple of weeks ago talking some fantasy, just because Steve was telling Scott how much of a fantasy football addict I am. So I had to get on there and kind of, talk about it with him. Mina Kimes show twice a week, previews and recaps of the NFL slates. We got always college football 4 times a week, Sunday through Thursday. It's a lot going on there. We got, previews, interviews, everything you'd possibly want, talking about each college football week. And then new show added to the Omaha slate, and one I am assisting with as well, the Schrager Hour with Peter Schrager, who recently joined ESPN about a month and a half, 2 months ago. Now has a podcast with Omaha doing weekly interviews. We just had Cam Scattaboo on the show. That was a ton of fun. And Cam is on my fantasy team, so it was a real joy to hear him talk about how he's going to keep running hard this year.
I have Tyron Tracy on my fantasy team this year.
That's tough. I do in one league. I liked Tracy. He was good last year, man. And
also have Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, that's tough.
Dude, I have Malik Neighbors and James Conner.
Yeah,
brutal.
I had Tyreek in my 3 most important leagues because
How many leagues are you in?
10. Yeah, I know.
What?
Yeah.
How do you keep track of 10?
Just got to set aside time, man. Like on Tuesday nights when waivers are going to run, I get home from working out around 10:30 and I'm usually doing it till like 1 a.m. And I listen to the Waiver Wire pod and just go through all my leagues and think about strategy. And then probably
Omaha's got to give you a fantasy football podcast.
Yeah, I know. I got a work league together this year. So I'm in Omaha league. So
there you go. So everybody from Omaha plays? Does Peyton play?
No, it's just my department.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Jack Foster, always a pleasure. And I'll talk to you again next week. All right, we're back here on the Chase Thomas podcast, where I'm now joined by old friend Vols 247 own Ryan Callahan. Ryan, good afternoon, my friend. How are you?
Doing well. How are you, Chase?
We're doing pretty well over here. Starting to feel like fall a little bit. I felt like because it was so hot here in East Tennessee going into late September, people were putting out their Halloween decorations early out of protest is my theory, because it was like September 20th and I'm looking at my neighbors where they've like really put a bunch of Halloween stuff. And I'm like, I'm pro Halloween. Like I love the month of October, but I'm like, it's 85 degrees outside. Like I don't feel fall at all. But I think it was a protest. We're like, we're transitioning to fall here. Like I'm over the heat and we're doing it now. Have you noticed this in your neck of the woods?
Only a little bit, not much. I'm definitely not a proponent of Halloween decorations going out before October 1st.
Yes.
It's not Christmas. It's not worth celebrating for more than a month.
There you go. Are you going into anything this year, Ryan Callahan?
Am I dressing up as anything?
Yes.
That's it. Unless my kids rope me into something, no, probably not. But we'll see.
Have they roped you into like have you ever done any of that? With
They haven't. They haven't shown any interest in that yet, but they're getting to the age where maybe they could. So we'll see. They've not asked that. They probably wouldn't want me to dress as anything, similar to them or corresponding with their costume. Some kids up to a certain age might like it. I think they're getting to the age where they're like, I barely want to be seen with you, Dad. Leave me alone.
Oh no.
I mean, it's a very small gap in between there, and we may have already transitioned into that stage. So we'll see.
I love it. Well, Ryan Callahan, let's talk some Tennessee football recruiting. First up, we haven't talked since Tristen Keys flipped from LSU to Tennessee. It feels like forever ago. It's kind of funny, like how much fans, analysts, we all think about, like, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Then a couple weeks pass and you're like, oh, right, it's fine. Like Tristen Keys is just in your class now. Like this whole thing that we spent like 8 months being like, are we sure? Is he going to flip? Yeah. And it's like on your mind, just sometimes subconsciously, consciously. And you're like, is today the day? And then he just does it. And then a couple weeks later, we're just like, yeah, Tristen Keys is in our class. Like Tristen Keys is going to be a Tennessee Vol here. So I guess I'm curious from your vantage point, do you think it's a David Sanders situation for him in this class where the expectation should be he's going to be a plug and play starter as a true freshman, like a Ryan Williams, like a Cam Coleman, like a Jeremiah Smith?
Well, so I'm glad you mentioned that. I want to draw a line there probably because I think, yes, he's quite possibly a plug and play starter. There's at least a good chance of that. I do think he's going to have to earn it because Tennessee does have some real talent at receiver. We'll see. Chris Brazzell looks like he's NFL draft bound. But you're gonna have Mike Matthews coming back, presumably. You're gonna have Braylon Staley coming back as starters, and then I think a couple talented young guys in Travis Smith and Radarius Jackson. We'll see when Radarius Jackson's back. That before that injury, I think he was coming along nicely and earned some playing time in the Georgia game and got in their first play and rewarded with an injury. But yeah, I think they're gonna have enough talent around him, and even some other guys in this class coming in. I think Celesi Moa, Tyreek King, Legend Bay. They've got some really talented guys in this class around him. So it's not a sure thing he starts as a freshman, but I think he's going to have it's going to be hard for Tennessee to keep him off the field. So he's one of those guys where, is it guaranteed week one? Maybe not, but good chance of that as long as he lives up to the hype. And at the very least, he's going to be a guy that probably plays his way into that, at some point during his freshman season. But I don't know that he's Ryan Williams or Jeremiah Smith either. I think he's one of those guys where he might be the number one wide receiver in this class, but not every class is going to have those types of guys. Like that was a pretty generational group of guys. And Cam Coleman, there's some special talents out there these days, and you can have that, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee that every number one wide receiver in their class is going to be that type of immediate impact, just star. So I think people should have maybe, reasonably high expectations. They're probably going to be unrealistically high. Let's be honest. But yeah, I don't know that people should be expecting just that kind of impact because they're not the same exact type of player. And it's just different for everybody. So I'm fascinated to see what a receiver like Tristen Keys can look like in Tennessee's offense, because, we've seen them succeed with guys, but it's not been of the 5-star, like bona fide number one receiver in his class type guys. That this will be kind of a new experience. Mike Matthews was a 5-star, but he was more of a composite 5-star, like top 50 player nationally, like really good prospect, but there was still some rawness to his game. Tristen Keys is going to have just crazy expectations from the start, and we'll see how he deals with that. And to that point, how Tennessee staff deals with having a guy with that kind of expectations coming in.
A lot bigger too. Like Tristen Keys is, what do you have his measurables in front of you?
He's well built. He's not super tall. I wouldn't say he's around 6'2".
Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing 6'3" on his wiki.
I don't think he's 6'3". I've not seen measurements for him in at least a few months, but I think he's somewhere closer to 6'2". But that's a good build. Tennessee doesn't have a lot of guys like that on the roster. He's Travis Smith is the one that kind of stands out in that group, but we've got him listed at 6'2.5". That's probably about right. I don't think he's quite 6'3", but either way, he's somewhere in that range where he has the build of an outside guy, but if you wanted to play him in the slot, he's probably capable of that too. Like, it just depends on your situation and how you use slot guys, but he's got that kind of skill set that he could probably fit just about anywhere at wide receiver.
And Andrew Ivins, who was on this program last week, colleague of yours, I mean, he compared his NFL comp is CeeDee Lamb for Tristen Keys, which that'd be a really fun player. Obviously an Oklahoma legend back in the day, but I mean, that was an explosive player and one of the best receivers in the NFL right now. I mean, it's just, you watch him. I mean, I loved his fake injury celebration he had on his debut, right? Because he hasn't played all year. Yeah. Like, he was actually Tennessee. Weirdly, I don't know if a lot of fans are keeping up with this, but some of their biggest name recruits have not played or are not playing of late. So he made his debut this past week, which is good because you need those senior snaps, man. Like, I think it's just every snap matters, and more film, more tape, that kind of thing. Like, because Faison, is Faison done? Are we sure we're going to see Faison again the rest of this year?
I don't think there's any guarantee. We'll see what he does, but he hasn't played since the season opener. Not expected back this week. So, yeah, that's an interesting situation, to your point about needing senior year snaps. I'm not sure how many he'll get at the very least. Now, he may have a long runway, though, because his team is a defending state champion, and they look like they're just kind of cruising even without him. So he may have a chance to come back in the playoffs, even if he doesn't come back in the regular season. But yeah, he did have surgery on that hand, and not sure exactly when he'll be back, but there's certainly, I don't think there's any guarantee that it's anytime soon.
Yeah, and it's one of those, I forgot, someone did the deep dive in like how many, like, the senior snaps matter for guys who plug and play as true freshmen. It's just more time. And if you're going to try and compete as a true freshman versus the redshirt freshman for snaps to win that starter job, like, that could put Faison further behind in his development. Like, every snap matters, especially at the senior level when you're, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just something to monitor. So I'm glad that Tristen Keys is back on the field, and I hope he can stay healthy, and I hope Faison can get back sooner rather than later. Like you said, Grimsley's an absolute juggernaut in North Carolina. He's lost one game as a starter during his entire time over there. So we'll see on that front, but very curious to see how that continues to play out. Speaking of receivers, but this one in-state, 5-star Bowman, who was committed to Oregon. He decommits, was at Tennessee, Georgia, correct?
And UAB the next week.
Okay, he was at both. Okay, I wasn't sure. Okay, so he's there both weeks. Former teammate of George McIntyre. Maybe something to jot down there. But between him and David Gabriel-Gorges, who's obviously in a big rivalry game against Macaulay on Friday night, who do you think's the bigger priority for Tennessee in this class? Is it not a 1 or 1A, 1B? Is it which way? Because, I mean, Tennessee does not have a running back in this class right now. We'll see if they can flip somebody like Amari Latimer or something down the stretch. Who knows if there's a DeJuan Morris out there for them here over the next couple months. But, I mean, they went big fish hunting for Savion Hyder, finished second there. When you go after those big boy battles, sometimes you're not going to win. Sometimes you win, like David Sanders, and sometimes you come in second, like you did with Savion Hyder. But I am curious, because that would be two humongous lands if you were able to land Bowman and Gabriel-Gorges. But where do you think Tennessee's at with both of those guys right now?
Oh, man. It might be kind of a 1A, 1B situation. I think it's hard to not say David Gabriel-Gorges is number one on the board, simply because you've not seen many, if any, in-state running backs of his caliber. And Tennessee's put out some good running backs in the past 10 to 15 years. But, I've told people outside of maybe Jalen Hurd, I don't think I've seen anyone as good as him. He's really, really good. And he's still early in his development, considering he's a junior in high school, but he's got a pretty good number of carries. I mean, I just look at the guy won Mr. Football as a sophomore in the classification where all the top private schools in Tennessee compete. I mean, that never happens, because there's always some junior or senior star going to an SEC school that runs away with that award usually. For him to be in the same backfield with the 4-star who ended up at an SEC school in Shakai Mills-Knight and still win that award as a sophomore tells you how special he is. So, he's awesome. Kesean Bowman's really good too. He's major priority for Tennessee at wide receivers. So I think both of those guys are, top of the board, absolute priorities for the Vols. Tennessee's in good shape, I think, with Kesean Bowman right now, but a long way to go in that one. Now that he's backed off the Oregon commitment, I don't think he's looking to make any final decisions anytime soon. With George's, or with Gabriel-Gorges, I should say, Ohio State is the school that you've heard a lot of buzz about outside the state of Tennessee. And keep in mind that he is originally from Canada. So we've seen Max LeBlanc is another guy from Baylor that went to Ohio State from there. He was a Canadian. We've seen those guys with not deep ties to the state come in and be kind of more willing to go wherever. And Tennessee's done a good job with a couple in this class, obviously, having Gabriel Osenda and Jamian Theodore committed. But, those two being his teammates, I don't think that's going to be the end-all, be-all in his recruitment. It's just going to be one of those knock-down, drag-out kind of recruitments, and it's really just it's probably going to be, battle to the end, bidding war, all that stuff. It's going to be just who outlasts the other, I'm sure, in the end. There's been some whispers of reclassification being on the table. Don't know if that's a legitimate possibility or where that stands now. But you heard everything in that recruitment so far. But the two teams I've heard most consistently are Ohio State and Tennessee. So I think the Vols are going to make him a huge priority the rest of the way. And I'll be shocked if they're not in it at the very end. It's just going to come down to who wants him the most, and it's going to be a big time battle for a guy that's that good.
Yeah, I wonder if they adjust. They being the Tennessee staff, with how it unfolded with Hyder, because they're kind of left with nothing here. And you look at that running back room right now. I mean, Star Thomas probably gone after this year, and then Peyton Lewis has not had the kind of start to the year that you would have hoped. Morris obviously was not expected to contribute, but we'll see. It's a big offseason for him to see if he can factor in, because I think they're going to need him to factor in. I mean, Deshaun Bishop, great local story, but he's not a Dylan Sampson, a Jalen Wright elite. Like he's like a souped up version of Jabari Small, where he's really reliable, great run blocker or pass blocker. He's old reliable, right? Like he's solid, but he's not going to have the breakaway speed. He's not going to be a 25 carry guy ever at Tennessee. And that's not like, he's still a good player. It's just, I think more of a role player for the Vols. But like, can you really go back to back all in on the 5-star, let's not say generational, but the 5-star big time back, with the risk of missing out again? And then you have 2 cycles in a row where you could potentially miss and finish second for these 2 top backs. And then you're kind of like, okay, what do we actually have back there? Like we're really, really thin. I mean, because you don't want to scare them away by having a backup plan, like still talking to other backs. And it's not like they're just only talking to DGG here, but it does feel like, I don't know where you're at, but it would be kind of an upset if Tennessee added another back in this class post Hyder miss. And I don't know. I kind of wonder how it's really hard. Like they're in a tough position, but this is why they make a lot of money, is to manage these kind of things. Ryan Callahan, but I don't know. I think it's really fascinating in roster management and roster building, because it will be a bold risk. You have to take that risk. He's in state, but I mean, Shakai Mills-Knight, another guy, the guy right before him left the state, and he was obviously from Canada too. He ends up at Ole Miss. Like there's no guarantees there, but you won on Gabriel Osenda, as you talked about, Jamian Theodore. They're from Canada. So I don't know. Like I understand why you go all in, and he's that kind of back, but also, man, you missed on Hyder. Like you can't do this back-to-back cycles, I don't think.
Well, what was fascinating about the way it played out this year, it wasn't that Tennessee just went all in on Savion Hyder. It's just that's how it played out, because they missed out on some other guys who went elsewhere. They were involved with Jonathan Hatton, who ended up committing to Texas A&M, not getting a chance to take his official visit to Tennessee this summer. They were in heavily with Jonas Walton. He committed to Notre Dame before he got to take his Tennessee official visit in June. And then Amari Latimer was a guy that they tried multiple times to get on campus earlier this year and just never made it back before he committed to Wisconsin. It has a brother at Wisconsin right now, so that was obviously an advantage for the Badgers in that one. So they were in on a few guys, and it's not a super deep running back class, I don't think, at least in the Southeast. So that made it a little bit tough for Tennessee. So they've kind of zeroed in on a pretty small group of guys, and Hyder was just the one left. So the good thing for them in 27 is I think they've got a much healthier board. They've got a several options, really, but at least a handful that they're already in good shape with. Tyson Robinson out of Mississippi. Asa Barnes is another in-state guy at Westview High School in Martin. I think you're going to hear about more in the coming months. Tennessee's been heavily involved with him already too. Some other guys outside the state, like Trey Segara, that they've been involved with. He's been on campus a handful of times out of South Carolina. Even Aiden Gibson out of South Carolina, who was on campus for the UAB game a couple weeks ago. So they've gotten off to a much better start. And this is a class that Darrell Sims has been recruiting for a couple years now. So they don't have to just put all their eggs in the David Gabriel-Gorges basket. They can go all in there and make him a huge priority, but they're going to have other options depending on how things play out. You don't want to be just waiting till the very end on him and passing up other guys to make sure you've got a spot for him, but they're going to have other options if something goes sideways in that one. So I think they're in a much better shape to get a good running back. And to your point about 26, I think they're still working on some guys like Amari Latimer. We'll see if any of them get to campus. But if that doesn't work out, as they showed with Star Thomas, you can go to the transfer portal. It's just when you look at Josh Heupel's track record, it seems to be his approach, and it's worked out well so far. You don't have to have a bell cow like a Dylan Sampson. That was a one-off for him, it seems like. His history is much more like what he has this year, a three-man backfield rotation where no one's getting 20 carries a game, and you don't have to rely on any one guy. And he's produced NFL guys doing it that way, with Jalen Wright obviously being a big success story. And I'm a little higher on Deshaun Bishop, I think, than you are. And Star Thomas has been really good this year, obviously. But Bishop's got a pretty healthy average per carry. And I think DeJuan Morris is going to be really good. He may even get on the field some this year. So I think they've got some talent in that room still. But if they miss out on someone in this 26 class, it's easy enough to go to the portal and get another guy who can come in there and compete. And you sell him on, hey, look what Star Thomas did. He may get himself in the NFL draft discussion, or at least a free agent invite somewhere that gives him a chance to stick around. And you can use that as a pretty big selling point for someone.
Also, Luke Fickell might just get fired and then opens everything back up. And then you do the Brazel thing where it's like, all right, we'll take both Latimers. It's a Latim. Yeah. We're going to take you both. Like, we'll be all right. It'll be a package deal. So you just never know with coaching changes and that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Who do you think is the quarterback who makes the most sense for Tennessee in the 2027 class that they're linked to?
Boy, that's a great. How about this? I'm not sure Tennessee. There's no guarantee Tennessee has offered the quarterback it will end up signing in this class. It's a fascinating class because I think you're looking for probably a developmental guy in all likelihood. But, what does that look like? Is it more of a 3-star type? Is it a lower 4-star type? There's an in-state guy Tennessee is evaluating pretty closely named Andre Adams out of Antioch High School. I think that's one to at least keep an eye on. He's got some other nice offers so far, but they've offered a few. Malachi Ziegler out of Louisiana is a guy Tennessee is evaluating this week. Joey Halsley going down there to watch him play. That's a guy they've been heavily involved with for a while. Might be a tough sell in this class. I think it's gonna be fascinating just to see who they can get. You don't want to just completely pass on a good quarterback, but you can't realistically devote just significant resources to that position 3 years in a row. And George McIntyre, Faison Brandon, logic says you need to take more of a developmental guy in the 27 class. So the other guys they've been most involved with, Israel Abrams out of Illinois, and we just made him a top 25 player nationally on 24/7 Sports. So he's not a guy that's lower rated by any means, but doesn't have quite the offer list that would match up with that ranking just yet. We'll see if that changes, but Tennessee's been heavily involved there. Already had him on campus a few times. He was just back in town for the Georgia game, so he's another one Tennessee's off to a good start with. And then Blake Roscoff out of Arizona, who also just moved into our top 247. Looks like another good evaluation by Tennessee, where his offer list hasn't completely shot through the roof yet. So it looks like a realistic option, but does his stock continue to rise? So the more those guys' stock rises, the trickier maybe it gets for Tennessee to land someone like that in this class. So I'm keeping an eye on the Andre Adams type guys too, just in case those guys kind of get out of that realm where Tennessee's realistically looking in this class. Because you're not going to be involved in all likelihood, at least in a super high dollar recruitment where you're going to have to spend a lot of money to get a quarterback. This is the guy that you're likely wanting someone who can come in and is willing to sit for a year or two, at least before they expect to play. And so you're probably not going to just put and you can't pay 3 big money quarterbacks all at once. That's a hard sell these days with roster management. So I think you probably got to be looking the developmental route, and Andre Adams, at least an in-state target worth watching in the coming months.
I like it. Speaking of the in-state, do you think there's more talent in the 27 class in-state or 26?
I think the 27 class looks stronger, at least at the top, and it's starting to fill out more too, even below the top tier. I think it's we've got 10 players right now in the top 247 for the 2027 class on 24/7 Sports. That's a pretty healthy number for the state of Tennessee. It's pretty early in the process, so a lot of those rankings will change, but that's a pretty good start. And those top 6 guys or so in particular, David Gabriel-Gorges, Kesean Bowman, Omari Sanders, the I guess you call him linebacker, but defensive athlete out of Franklin Road Academy in Nashville. Malik Howard, the tight end at Oak Ridge. There's several guys Tennessee really likes and is heavily involved with. Princeton Uefo, the offensive tackle at Siegel High School in Murfreesboro. So it's a pretty strong group there at the top, and Tennessee's off to a good start with several of those guys. They've gotten them on campus multiple times. Gabriel-Gorges is obviously going to be a tough battle, but most of the other, and Amari Sanders, I would put in that group too. That's going to be a big time battle. Vanderbilt is actually heavily involved in that one. Texas A&M's done a nice job with them. So that's going to be those are both going to be big time battles, but most of the others, Tennessee's off to a really good start. So I think it's shaping up well for Tennessee, and it's a class that looks like it's stronger at the top. So definitely a chance for Tennessee to do a little more of the heavy lifting in state. We've seen it's been I would say pretty good in 26 for Tennessee, but they been a little bit hit and miss the last couple of years with a couple good players who've gone outside the state. Sometimes guys who weren't born and raised in Tennessee. That makes it a little trickier sometimes. We talked about with the Baylor kids. You've had a couple like Shakai Mills-Knight who've gone elsewhere, but they've done pretty well in 26. But 27 is potentially set up for them to have a pretty strong in-state class because those top 6 or 7 guys are pretty strong.
26 though, I think maybe the thing to me, Ryan, that I guess I shouldn't say confused, but just raising an eyebrow at is that they just keep taking Leos. Like they're just because Dre Quinn, I mean, obviously 4-star guy, originally from Starkville, moves over to Powerhouse Buford this cycle, and I mean, longtime Clemson commit, decommits, gets a crystal ball by one site to Texas. We'll see where he ultimately ends up. But I mean, Andrew Rodgers, teammate of Faison Brandon, another 4-star guy, originally committed to Virginia Tech. You already flip Hezekiah Harris from Auburn this cycle. You still have Cedric Golston the second and CJ Edwards to, I guess, more project, I think is the way to look at it, more project Leos. But you also have, I mean, Zach Groves. I mean, you look at his measurables, I don't think he's a Leo at Tennessee. I think that guy is a strong side defensive end when he gets to campus. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, are you surprised that they're going to potentially add one more? And do you think it's likely that they land one of those two at least?
I think there's a pretty good chance. I mean, it's not a sure thing at all because you're battling some big time programs for Dre Quinn. Texas heavily involved there. He's going to Ohio State soon. Was just at Mississippi State over the weekend, and they're heavily invested in that recruitment too. Given the Starkville connection, they feel like there's a chance. So yeah, you're going to have a battle on your hands for Dre Quinn, and then we'll see about Andrew Rodgers. I think if you had to prioritize them, I think Quinn is the guy that they're in on the most heavily, but Rodgers certainly worth watching closely there too. But the thing about that is, I think I wouldn't get focused too much on the position because some of those guys I don't think will end up at the Leo position long term. To your point, Zach Groves certainly already looks like he may be outgrowing the Leo position. He's maybe shed a few pounds this season, but I just saw him play a couple weeks ago. He's a pretty big kid already. And,
he's huge. Like his measurables, and you'll get smaller when you get to campus. Like it's on the meal plan and the strength training. Like
maybe this could be just the start of his development. Zach Groves could be a 3-technique defensive tackle by the time it's all said and done.
I mean, I just don't think Leo would be a huge upset for me.
Yeah. So I think he's probably outgrowing that position. Cedric Golston, I think has a body that's likely to make him a strong side defensive end in the long run. We'll see about that. So the point being, regardless of whether any of those guys ends up at Leo or not, you're sort of just taking the skill set and letting them fill out and develop into whatever they will in the long run. And sometimes that will be Leo, sometimes it won't be. And that's sort of what Tennessee did at strong side defensive end and defensive tackle in this past class. Marion Dye and Ethan Utley. You had some talented guys that could play multiple positions coming out of high school. And you say, well, some are probably going to take off and weigh 290 in a couple of years, and some will stay closer to 260, and it'll all work out in the long run. And that's kind of what you have to do on the defensive line, playing a system like Tennessee's, especially where you're not getting 300+ pound guys that you're trying to just tie up blockers up front. You're trying to get active guys to go after the quarterback. So yeah, I think you're likely not looking at as many Leos as that class ranking or as the ratings on each player's profile would suggest. And that's why they're still in on guys like Dre Quinn and Andrew Rodgers. And to that point, Rodgers, who reclassified from the 27 class, he's a pretty big kid, 240 plus already. He could even outgrow the Leo position. So you're just sort of taking skill sets over body types, and you don't worry as much about where they play now as much as what they're maybe going to look like in 2 or 3 years, if that makes sense.
I love it. I'll get you out of here on this, Ryan Callahan. The 3-star recruit in commitment in the 2026 class that you think will end up being the diamond in the rough is who?
Ooh, man, there's a few in this class that I like quite a bit, and you may have asked me this before, and I may have given you a different answer then. So that's the tough thing about this class. There's some depth to it. It's a pretty strong class. I like Darrell Rivers out of the Atlanta area. Now, see, on 24/7 Sports, I think we've got some guys who are 24/7 Sports composite 4-stars that we don't have as 4-stars that I already think of as 4-stars. So depends on how you classify these. Like Tyreek King is a 3-star on 24/7 Sports that I think is a really good player. So like, I don't think of him as an under the radar type guy. And I think that's probably more what you're going for. Kamari Blair, I would put in that same boat because he's a composite 4-star. We have him as a high 3-star. I think those two guys are pretty heavily recruited, good prospects that I wouldn't say have flown under the radar. So out of those maybe more under the radar types, I would probably say either Darrell Rivers or this is the one that I think people might be most intrigued by because he's currently the second lowest rated player in the class on 24/7 Sports, Javonte Smith, the cornerback out of Jackson, Tennessee. He's really an athlete, has been in high school, much like Zay Anderson out of Greenville. Both those guys have been two-way players in high school. Smith initially recruited by Tennessee as a wide receiver, got an offer his sophomore year when he was playing wide receiver, and has just transitioned this year into being more of a corner. He's making big plays during his senior year too, off to a good start. I just think he's the kind of athlete you're looking for at that position when you're trying to find kind of a developmental guy, little bit of a diamond in the rough, not completely, but a little bit of that type. You're looking for a guy with his athleticism. So I think he's got a higher ceiling than that current rating would suggest to a lot of people. But Darrell Rivers, a guy that's certainly raised his profile in recent months too. He was actually just at Georgia this past weekend for the Alabama game. I'm not sure much will come of that, but Georgia, at least keeping him warm, staying involved there. So those two guys, I think both are better players than their ratings might suggest right now. And certainly Javonte Smith is one that probably not enough people have been talking about. You beat out Missouri and Arkansas mostly for him this summer. Nice recruiting win, but that's one most people will probably expect Tennessee to get in state, frankly. And that's one that I think some people may have slept on because he's a 6-foot corner who can run. Ricky Gibson fits that profile. There's a lot of guys that fit that profile. So I think there's a lot to work with a guy like Javonte Smith, and that was a nice pickup in state.
I love it. Ryan Callahan, what could the good folks check out from you and the team over at Go Vols 247 this week?
Yeah, lots of coverage, even though it's an open date. We've got some good stuff on the team side of things, talked with players and Josh Heupel on Wednesday. Patrick Brown's got some good stuff up on the site, and some stuff already looking ahead at Arkansas since they've got an open date too. We've been talking a lot with Bobby Petrino and all the staff changes there, and then some recruiting coverage as well. Tennessee's coach is on the road this week, taking advantage of the open date. Some additional recruiting coverage beyond that. So lots to check out this week, and fun time of year. And even though there's no Tennessee game going on, plenty to discuss among the members of the checkerboard as well. With all the games going on this weekend, should be a fun one to get to sit back and just talk and watch some football, and actually get to take in some other games.
I love it. Ryan Callahan. Wow. Ryan Callahan, keep up the great work, my friend, and we'll talk again very soon.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Chase.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.